Are we on?
Hey, hello everyone.
Hello. Hello.
This Hangout is live.
Welcome to our June Lightroom Hangout on the print module.
We are officially
right.
hanging.
We've got Rob Sylvan here. Who else is in here? Here's our pal Gerard Murphy.
Gerard is here.
Hola.
Gerard.
Very special guest, Kevin Ames.
Kevin Ames joining us from Atlanta.
Commercial photographer, Photoshop World instructor.
Yep.
All around great guy.
I'll send you the $20 later, Rob.
Super psyched to have Kevin here. I have had the pleasure of seeing Kevin teach at past Photoshop Worlds. I've read his articles in Photoshop User Magazine, and I think you've probably done some books too, huh?
Yeah, they're all out of print now. They were back in the day.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm doing Photo Focus. I'm writing for Photo Focus, and I'm hoping to get a book. By the way, congratulations, you guys, on your new Lightroom book.
Yeah.
That's really terrific. It's going to be up on the iTunes store and free for the first month. Is that right?
That's right.
Correct.
Right.
Thanks to Gerard. Yeah.
Thanks to Gerard. All Gerard. Actually, thanks to me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, thanks to Rich in particular. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Gerard is the face of Mosaic Archive and one of our sponsors as well for our Hangout.
I hope I'm not the face of it.
Well, you are kind of, and you're kind of in extreme close-up mode right now too.
Well,
That's right. Yeah. There you go. In fact, Gerard, add your lower third with the link to the app.
I'm working on this. I'm working on it. Hold on.
Yeah.
I just flew in from the West Coast. We're in Boston, and man, are my arms tired.
Yeah.
Oh darn! I was going to ask you that.
Beat you to it, Kevin.
Yeah, we're a little lopsided.
Tip your waist down.
So while Gerard's getting ready,
Rob.
Mosaic Archive is one of our sponsors, has been our main sponsor for our Hangouts every month, so we're very grateful to that. Our other sponsor is Photoshop World, where we're all going to be this September, right after Labor Day week. We'll be there in Vegas. And it's going to be a great time. It's going to be an amazing time because we're having a huge photo focus kind of mass, critical mass forming there. And Rich seems like he's got some things in mind for us there too. So it should be pretty fun. I have no idea what it is, but it should be a good time, and looking forward to it. And I think we have a $50 coupon still good from Photo Focus, and we'll throw that up there during the Hangout. But you could say $50. But we're also giving away a free pass.
Right.
To Photoshop World.
That is right. You can come and see Kevin teach and Rob there. Yeah. And
introduce Kevin.
What's that, Rob?
You can see me introduce Kevin.
Oh, are you going to be one of the moderators?
I am. Yeah, I've been a moderator for a long time. I actually have behind me in my office today. On that shelf is all my past workbooks from Photoshop World. There's like 10 years of giant workbooks there, so it's a good time, very good time.
Rob, also, how's your arm, Rob? Are you stretching it out, getting ready to throw some T-shirts up there?
That's right. Yeah, I'm the T-shirt toss guy. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, we have a real good time. What else are we giving away this Hangout?
We are also giving away a free Mosaic app. So everybody, if you go over to mosaicarchive.com/hangout, I believe it's no S, Hangout, and you can enter to win either the trip to Photoshop World or the Mosaic Lightroom app, which is awesome as well. So please head on over there and register. This is only for people who are attending live. If you're watching this on the video, please attend live for the next one, because we always give away cool stuff.
And speaking of the next one, we're actually trying to get on the ball, and we're looking at July 30th for our next Lightroom Hangout.
We waited until the last minute on July, the last Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, you know, people are traveling and stuff, and our topic is going to be Lightroom in a on-the-go, mobile-type environment, and it should be a lot of fun. And we're working on our special guest. It'll be a surprise. So we're working on getting that guest lined up. But join us in July.
Yeah, there's a bunch of new between the new Mosaic app and the new stuff for Lightroom Mobile. There's some really cool stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about
for mobile Lightroom.
Yeah, I was on the go for the last couple of days traveling, and I admit I used both apps on both the plane and while I was in San Francisco. So it was fun to have my access to everything. I was so close to not bringing my laptop. So close. So close.
Yeah, I can't break that leash yet. But all right, so let's talk about printing.
Let's look at Kevin's background here.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, he printed some stuff out. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
we're actually
Kevin,
going to print some out today.
Kevin, where are you broadcasting from? What is this room? In which
Well, this used to be my darkroom where I would process black and white film and make my prints, and it's gotten converted to my digital work area. I hate the term digital darkroom. It sounds, we can do so much more. I mean, I was limited. On a good day, I could make a 20 by 24 inch black and white print. There's a 44 inch printer back there, and I can do black and white, color, metal prints, canvas. It's so much better now. We're so fortunate to be able to do the things that we can do that we could never do in the darkroom. Yeah. But it was a great space and worked out really well. If you look over my shoulder on the floor, there's a gap in the floor right back there.
Yeah.
That's the wall for where the sinks were.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
So maybe if you have me back, I will show pictures of what this space looked like before.
All right. Excellent.
Oh, wow.
So
tempting us.
Anyway, so are we ready to get started doing?
Yeah, let's get started.
Actually, Kevin, I want to see those pictures on the Mosaic app when we meet at Photoshop World.
Sure.
You can show them anytime we meet, anytime we get together in person. You can show them to anybody at any time.
I know. Well, I'm doing that, Gerard. Come on.
That's what I want to see.
Okay.
When it comes to Lightroom and printing, there's kind of two routes, and we're going to talk about both of those. One is when you have a printer right next to you, or at least somewhere within your physical domain that you can print to, and that's where you would use the print module to do some layouts. You can also use Lightroom to create layouts that you save out as JPEGs that you could upload to an online print service of any kind. And we'll talk about both of those different paths. And I think Kevin's going to get us started with printing locally.
Right. Well, let's start by doing that. I have a photograph here that Lightroom works best if you do these in collections for the print module. So I've got my collection here, and I've got 4 photographs in it. And the first thing that you do is you go into page setup and choose the paper size. So I've got a paper size here of 42 by 30. I'll click OK, and we'll get rid of these. And I can size any of these little boxes here to whatever I want as far as the image. And that comes over here, right here in the cell size. I can change it to whatever I'm looking for. So if I have a cell of 30 inches by, let's make it width of 30 inches. Or we can enter it right here and type in 30. And I happen to know that I want it as a 21 inch. So now I have the cell the right size. The problem is it's really difficult to get things centered in a Lightroom document. It's just really tough. So you've got to do the math. So if I want it centered, I've got a 42 wide image and I've got a 30-inch wide box. So that leaves me with, what, 12 inches? So I want to have 6 inches. Or if I want to center it, I could take my cursor and put it right at the dead center point here and go exactly halfway, which would be 21 inches. For the height, I can do the same thing. Since I've got a 30-inch, I believe it is a 30-inch high, I'm going to look for 15. And if you look, there's a little tiny orange arrow, orange line right over there on the ruler. And let's see if I can shift this in so you can, and I don't think I can zoom in anymore. So what I'm going to do is get as close to center as I can, and there's a little orange indicator. So I've got this centered up. Now I can drag an image in, and if I want to rotate it, I can do that to fit. Another thing I can do is I have preset this So I've got it already set up. I've saved it as a template. And also you can save prints. So I've actually saved this out as a print. And I'm going to go ahead and send it to the printer.
How do you save it as a print, Kevin?
Pardon?
How do you save it as a print template?
We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
It's right up here. I'll show you how to do that in just a second.
It's really a handy thing, though, so that you can come back and print the same image again another time, or even drop another one into the same layout.
Well, not only that, but it saves your print profile, it saves the paper type, everything that you're going to do. So it works out really well. So I've got it over here in the print job. I'm going to go to printer. We can also print to a JPEG, which we're going to address in a little bit. So I've got everything set up here, going to the Canon, and I'm just going to go print. And I've already done all the heavy lifting, and in a minute you'll hear the printer start to pick up data.
And Kevin, that photo looks nothing like you, by the way.
For which we're all incredibly happy. And I just heard that the printers just started to, yep, it's taking data. And you'll actually be able to see the print in a few minutes. So this is the first one. I think the place that really everybody gets hung up on is in getting started. So let's start. I'm just going to go pick a template.
So Kevin, just to be clear, maybe take a step back for a second. So you've done all your development edits already, right? So you're not trying to go back and forth between the print module and the development module, right?
No. No. As a matter of fact, this one has been round tripped into Photoshop. I've done a lot of retouching and enhancing, first in the develop module, then I put it into Photoshop and do the final pixel-based retouching, then I re-import it back into Lightroom.
Although, on that note, Gerard, if you do go back to the develop module and make changes, those changes show up live when you go back to the print module, so that's pretty handy.
Right. If I work on the same picture.
Right. Now, do you also take advantage of soft proofing? Or is that,
I do that in Photoshop because that's where I learned. Photoshop is my happy place because I was using it for, 20-some years before Lightroom came along.
Right.
But I do print out of Lightroom because I like the way it's very consistent. And once I save one of these templates, it works really, really well. So we've got this printing now, and let's make a new template. So I'm just going to click a plus here, and let's call this 8x10.
And Kevin, if you think about it, there's a couple of people. Two people have asked, is it easier to print from Lightroom? Is there an advantage over printing from Photoshop? So as you do these things, if you see a spot that's easier to work with,
let's see what we can do on that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Page Setup, and it's really important that you start with Page Setup because even though I just made 8x10, the Page Setup is still set for 42x30. So I can do a Manage Custom Sizes by clicking the plus sign right here, and then clicking in, I can do an 8x10. And then you come over to Paper Size, and the width is 8 and 10 for the height. Now, on the non-printable areas, I'm going to go ahead and do 0, 0, and move between them.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, can I say something while you're on this screen?
Sure.
I often, for the Lightroom help desk questions that come in around this stuff, I just want to point out that the dialog you're showing there is you're actually making changes that affect the printer driver. And
right.
So the changes that you make in these dialog boxes are really controlling the printer driver. This is Lightroom's way to get you in touch with the printer driver. And Lightroom takes all of its orders from the printer driver. So as you're creating a custom page there and setting the margins, you're doing that in the printer driver software, and not in. I mean, you're getting there through Lightroom, but just to clarify for folks that this is the printer driver really sets the canvas size, the minimum margins that Lightroom allows. So when you're
Right.
trying to figure this stuff out, it's just important to kind of understand where these pieces are playing together nicely.
Right. I'm going to click OK because this actually has something to do with when we make a JPEG. So you still have to do the page setup if you're going to do a JPEG, because otherwise you're not going to have the right size to work with. So if I click OK, I now have an 8x10. And a lot of people are uploading prints to companies that use the ROES system, ROES, and it is very specific in its requirement. If you want an 8x10, you actually have to send 8 inches by 10 inches at 300 pixels per inch, or a 3000 by 2400 pixel image. And this is how you get there. So now I've got the 8x10, and I can drag an image into it. And you can see it's automatically, because I've got rotate to fit checked, it automatically sets there. Now, if I'm using custom package, we pick up something called the inner stroke, which means I can actually put a border on the image just by clicking inner stroke. One of the things, though, that's really important is if you're printing to JPEG files, we have to have it the specific size. And notice right here it says 8x10, and I can change the resolution. Now, the reason it's at 176 is because in order to make that 30 by 21 inch print, I had to lower the pixels per, or dots per inch, pixels per inch, in order to make the image fit on the printer.
Hey, Kevin, one question
Sure.
that we get a lot is, what's the difference between a DPI and a PPI? And
Well,
where does that actually matter? Does it matter on when you're looking at it on the screen, like is it a JPEG? Does the DPI matter because they're not dots, they're pixels? And do PPI matter when you're printing?
Yes and no. It's one of those depends thing.
I love throwing out these questions that we get all the time, and we struggle with
dots per inch. Let me answer the question. Goes back to when we were printing on a printing press in CMYK, and it was literally the number of dots that made up the image. It has become accepted to say dots and pixels are the same thing. They're not, but when people are talking dots or pixels, they actually mean pixels per inch. So if I've got an 8x10 image like this one, when I print it out to a JPEG, I've got it all set up to do that. So I'm going to print it to the file, and I'm just going to drop it on the desktop. And this lady's name is Amy. It's part of my Red Dress series.
That's a pretty cool series. If you guys haven't checked that out, head over and where did I see it published? Did you?
Well, it hasn't
been
been published yet. I'm still working on it. There are several of them on the front of my website at kevinamesphotography.com. But every time I bring a model into the studio, I have them wear this dress. And every one of them does something completely different with it. Amy decided to do jumps with it, and you can see how flowy and fun it is. In any case, let's go to the desktop. And actually, I'm going to grab Bridge here and bring this over and go to the desktop.
He just said the B word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of got a shudder.
I want to do that to show the size. See, this isn't going to. Let's take a look. This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Well, no, I want you to see what size it is because I'm not re-importing it back into Lightroom. This is not big enough to work with that printer because I didn't change the pixels per inch. You see the difference there? That's really important. So let's go back to Lightroom now and back to the print module. And I'm going to change this to 300. And now when I print it, and we're going to call this Amy again, and we'll call it Amy 1, or Amy 300.
So is changing the pixels per inch something you can just set in Lightroom, or are there certain guidelines to say you should not take an iPhone photo and try to print it out at 300 PPI?
Well, you can. They won't look very good.
Yeah, I mean, how do you judge that? How do you know how large you can go with an image and still keep the 300 PPI, or should you drop it down to say 240 PPI, where the quality's not going to be better, but you might have more pixels?
It's a function of the pixel dimensions native to the image, like what is the actual pixel dimensions of your image to start with, and then the print size you want to print it to. So you can print any image at 300 ppi. It depends on the size.
Well, it depends on the native size of the file. But just to finish up this, notice now that it's 3000 by 2400, which would, if you divide it by 300, you get 10 by 8. So this would go to one of those digital printing houses. MPix, for instance, uses the ROSE uploading system. So it's really important to know how to do this. Now, resolution, I can get into a quick tutorial on it, but resolution is the native size of the file divided by the output pixels per inch to give you the dimensions. And Lightroom does this for you automatically, but if you don't have enough data to start with, it's not going to work. If I go back into the grid mode, notice, and let's make this bigger so everybody can see them, notice that I've got 5664 by 5618. Those are the native pixels I have here. So getting a 2400 by 3000 pixel image out of it is not going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if I try to do a 21 by 34 out of this, or 21 by 30 out of this, that's already been sized to 9 by 12, I'm going to have a bit of a problem. I'm going to have to go to really small number of pixels per inch in order to get enough output size. So output is determined by the pixels per inch divided into the size of the file. I know, mathematics, right? Ouch.
Yeah. Man.
You know, can I show something in Photoshop I think helps people to understand this a little bit?
You're going to go into Photoshop? Say, okay, fine. Absolutely.
Well, it's one of these things that when you talk about it to folks, it kind of makes your brain cramp up and your eyes.
It certainly does.
But I found that showing the image size dialog in Photoshop can help to illustrate that. Let me switch over and do that.
While you do that, somebody else has asked, what's the ideal PPI if you're sending out to a photo lab?
That's a question you should always ask the lab.
Ask the lab. Absolutely. Yeah. Ask the lab.
And I've found anything between 240 and 300 is typically what is the answer I usually get when I'm asking the lab.
Yeah, you'll 300 is like the happy place for most people. To say 300 people.
Is more always better?
No.
Okay. When is more not better?
Well, when you go beyond the resolution of the printer. Printers can do about 600 to 1200. Some of them can go 2400 pixels per inch. But at that point, we can't resolve any more difference with our eyes. And then we're going to be looking at it with a magnifying glass, and what's the point?
Yeah.
Right.
Can you see my screen yet? Am I showing
Yes.
up?
Yes.
I can see your screen.
So here, this is just an empty new document in Photoshop, and I went to image size to open this up. And so this is set to be 8 by 10 inches at 300 ppi. All right. If I change inches here to pixels, right, it's the same thing as what we're saying here. Is I have a photograph, let's say, that is 2400 pixels by 3000 pixels, so like a 7 megapixel image, right? This 7 megapixel image, I can, if I did nothing more right now, it is ready to print at 8 by 10 at 300 ppi, right? So if I uncheck this resample box right here, meaning I'm not going to change the pixel dimensions, all right? I'm gonna right here is the pixel dimensions 2400 by 3000, right? I can change this resolution value, say, to 240, right? By changing the resolution value to 240, what happens? Well, now my print size went up to 10 inches by 12.5 inches, but my pixel dimensions didn't change. So the image itself is the same native original pixel dimensions that it was when I started, but by changing the resolution value here, I'm saying I need less pixels per inch. Well, that means I can make a bigger print at that resolution, right? Likewise, if I went kind of a different way, maybe changed the height here. Say I wanted
to 24 or 25 inch.
All right, so now I went to a 24 inch height. Resolution went down even further. right? But my pixel dimensions have not changed. So this one image I can print theoretically at these different resolution values and have different size prints. Now what happens if I were to print this much larger is that the quality wouldn't be as good because I have a lower resolution than I would otherwise. But what happens as your print size gets larger, what happens to your viewing distance? It increases, right? So
Supposed
you can
to.
it's supposed to, right? Except for photographers, right?
Yeah, we want to closer.
we get closer. Yeah, so the thinking is that as your print size increases, the viewing distance increases, and you can print at a lower resolution. But generally speaking, I think the safe accepted lower end is like 180 ppi is typically what you want to stay above. I think most people would agree with that.
Also, a lot of labs, when you're doing larger things like big canvases or really big prints, they're printing at a lower resolution too. It also, I mean, it kind of saves ink. If you're printing at home and you're making big stuff, you don't need to print it at 600 dpi.
Well, unless you're going to show it to photographers.
Right.
Unless you're showing it to photographers, that's right.
Well, yeah, and if you're using a canvas or a matte surface paper, you don't need as much resolution as if you're doing glossy.
Right.
So I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid at all to print at 100 pixels per inch.
You heard it here, folks. Kevin isn't scared.
I ain't scared.
He ain't scared.
I ain't scared.
So a typical, when you're sending out to a lab, is always ask the lab. Ask them what file format they want. Typically it's going to be JPEG, but TIFF I guess is a possibility too. Ask them the color space they want.
Oh, yeah.
Typically sRGB.
sRGB, right, unless they say something different. And the resolution, ask them that too, and they're probably going to say 300. That's just the safe place. A JPEG sRGB at 300 ppi is like the safe accepted norm. And then, go ahead.
And along with that stuff, Rob, I was going to say that all the labs I print with, like Bayphoto, ACI, WHCC, MPix, they give you free prints to try stuff with, so that you can see that you're really printing in sRGB, and that's a whole other discussion. But if you're not in sRGB and they're printing in sRGB, your colors just don't look right. It
always makes sense to work with your lab, and that's often what you get what you pay for, right? If you're getting something super cheap, maybe you don't have that option to work with the people at the lab, but. If you can do some tests, do a test on a smaller size of the same paper. Make sure you're liking what you're seeing before you get in a larger size. I mean, that's just do whatever you can to help yourself in that process, and you'll probably be doing all right.
This isn't exactly the print module, but what about printing for screen? So a lot of people said that you should put 72 dpi for screen.
No. No, don't do that.
Yes, there you go. That's what I was trying to get to.
Don't do that. Just ignore anyone who says 72 ppi or dpi. Just ignore them.
Okay.
Well, what do we do, Rob? Tell me what else to do.
Well, it doesn't matter, okay? PPI, when you're setting the resolution in an image, right, and it's only going to be shown on screen, the only thing that matters is the pixel dimensions. The PPI doesn't matter. You could set it to 1 million. You can set it to 5 bazillion. It does not matter.
You can set it to 1.
You can set it to 1. That's right.
Yep.
And so it doesn't affect the file size. It doesn't affect anything else. All right?
You're blowing my mind here.
If
I don't want people to steal my picture and print it from online, so I've been setting it at a lower DPI, like 72.
That doesn't matter. Pixel dimensions
What's important is the native dimension of the file.
That's right.
But then you said that divided by the resolution.
But you can change the resolution. I just showed you. You can change the resolution to whatever you want it to be.
But when you do that, you're resampling. You're changing.
No, you don't. If you uncheck resample. All right. So say you uploaded to the web my 3000 by 2400 pixel sample image before, and you set it to 1 ppi. All I have to do is download that, open it in Photoshop, uncheck resample, put it at 300, and now I print at 300.
Where a lot of printers will set the PPI for it automatically. You tell it what size output, and it's gonna resample it by changing the resolution, but not by necessarily changing the. It's not going to up or down sample. It's just going to change the resolution.
I think the way that somebody explained it to me, Levi, that made sense was that the number of pixels per inch never changes on a monitor.
That's right.
No.
It's the pixels are set, and so the only thing
Really?
that the only thing that the monitor reads are how many pixels it has.
Right.
So you take an iPad and it has 2048 pixels wide. Doesn't matter how many pixels per inch you say it has, it still has 2048 pixels wide.
That's right.
And so for an ideal viewing on an iPad, you put 2048 pixels. The DPI has no effect whatsoever.
So when you're saving stuff to put online and you want to somehow limit or impede a person's ability to print at a high quality, the only thing you can do is resize the pixel dimensions smaller, right? Which obviously has the effect of, well, then you can't view it very large on your screen, right? Well, that's just physics, right? That's just how it works.
So DPI, PPI doesn't affect my image quality or my file size.
No.
Only an output.
It would
What have I
affect
been wasting my time for?
It would affect your file size if you were, say you're trying to export from Lightroom and you wanted to export an 8x10 at 300 ppi. So you set 300 ppi in the export dialog. You set it to be 8x10. You've already cropped it to an 8x10 aspect ratio. That is going to affect the pixel dimensions of that file. It potentially might upsize it or downsize it accordingly. So that will affect pixel dimensions.
Gotcha.
But if you're not resizing to fit during export from Lightroom, say you had that box unchecked and that resolution field is still active, and you put 300 in there or you put 72 in there, your pixel dimensions of that image is still going to be whatever it is. It's not going to be changed by that resolution field. All it is a metadata tag.
Right.
Mind blown.
I've just been revolutionized.
Well, it's a really common misconception that's been carried throughout the last
Now he's calling me
decade.
common.
Working at stock photo companies, it's a really common question. People will contact support saying, "Well, I downloaded this image it said it was 300 ppi, but it's really only 240. I want, I'm being shortchanged here somehow."
Right.
And so you just have to educate them on how to change that PPI value, that resolution value, without resampling. And
but that changes the pixels.
if you have resample unchecked, it does not change the. Here, go back to.
Yes, if you have it unchecked, but then you're resampling and you're changing the picture. I mean, then you're recalculating.
No.
If resample is unchecked, you're not changing the picture.
Okay, right. Yes,
This
it's
is why
just changing.
Kevin's here
Okay,
today.
yes.
Yes. He knows what he's talking about.
Well, and here's something that's interesting. Where did 300 pixels per inch come from anyway?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the very beginning of digital photography. And what happened was we would go to a printer and say, how much do you need to reproduce it? And of course, it was all in-house. Nobody else was making separations. If you went to a printer, they scanned the picture, they knew what they needed to do to make the film, to output, to build the plates, to print with. They didn't know they knew what line screen they were going to use. So somebody said, well, gee, if we double the number of, if we make the pixels double the number of the line screen, we'll be okay. And at the time, the typical line screen on a printing press was 150. 150 times 2? Hey, cool. 300 pixels per inch, that'll be enough. And they had no idea. It was a scientific wild you-know-what guess. And now, on film, that was really good because you had to compensate for the grain of the film, and it didn't have as much resolution as our cameras now. Now we think nothing of making, well, the picture that I've got over there on the printer, there's no way I could get that off a 35 millimeter slide, and yet it's super easy to do with a digital camera. 240 seems to be a good number for the printing press with a digital file. So a digitally originated file, one that's been shot digitally. So that's
helpful.
So I think we've thoroughly confused Terrell and Laurie. So
Laurie has a question related to this. Is there a printout of what pixels are what size? And I think it's important to make clear, pixels do not have a size.
right.
A pixel is just a funny word for picture element on your screen, and your screen these days we have monitors of all different resolutions. and those pixels are all different sizes based on your monitor size and monitor's resolution. So a pixel doesn't have a size. Size, in terms of a physical print size, is a function of the pixels in the image, the total pixel dimensions on the length or the width, and the resolution value you want to print it at. All right,
I'm just
there's
laughing
your size.
because I just see Rob up here like saying size doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, okay. Can we go on screen for a second, Levi?
You betcha. Also, while Kevin brings that up, we're talking about how to make the hairs in your paintbrush the right length. We're not talking about how to make good pictures at this point.
That's right. Well, I want to address what Lori was talking about. So I've created a new Photoshop document.
Well, you're going to share your screen, Kevin?
I thought I did. My bad.
We're still seeing your pretty face.
While Kevin
Oh,
shares
yeah,
the
nobody
screen,
wants to see that.
while Kevin shares the screen, I'm just going to plug the contest again. We're giving away a free trip to Photoshop World in Vegas is it late August? Early
September.
September
4th
Right through Labor Day.
I believe.
Yeah.
Labor Day, yep. And so you can win a free trip out there if you go over to mosaicarchive.com/hangout. You can also win a free Mosaic iPhone, iPad sync Lightroom app. That was terribly.
That's like a $25 value, right?
That's a $25 value. Yeah, which for
Well, and it's that's not the value. I think you're mixing up there, Rob.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
trying to make it sound like people think they're getting a free app. I'm trying to tell them what you're getting here.
So you're basically getting the ability to sync your photos to Google Drive and sync almost as many previews as you like, and you also have the ability to rate, star, flag them, and view them from anywhere on the Mosaic app.
And that is huge.
Yeah.
It is
Rated
awesome
star.
sauce.
Priceless.
It is, yeah. And I've been using the new app, and it is just rocking. It is.
Thank you, Levi.
I like the old one, but this one is so much better. now that the old one is no more.
And I probably shouldn't
really
tell
killing
people this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm punchy and tired. We are submitting a new version to Apple tomorrow that will also include video support. Yeah, you can watch your videos.
You just changed the game.
Rock on. And you can also multi-select photos, and you can open it in other third-party apps like Snapseed. And you can also launch slideshow. So, like,
can you print?
Whoa!
You can send it right over to MPix, and because the open-in works right, that the photos that we upload are 2048, and they already come preset with a 240 PPI value. Although, as we talked about, that is just a metadata field that you can change.
Excellent.
Well, and I'm curious why that's the default in Lightroom is 240.
Because that is the size that everybody figured out would work for the printing press. Remember, the original output device was a printing press doing CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And for magazines, posters, brochures, that was really the only output we had because we didn't have these great printers we got now. So if I could help Lori out for just a second.
Yeah, please.
Have my screen up?
Yes, we got it.
Okay, so this is the image size dialog box, and what I did was I made a 1,000 by 1,000 pixel brand new file in Photoshop. And you can see here in the dimensions, it's 1,000 by 1,000. If I have a resolution of 1 pixel per inch, my output size will be 1,000 inches by 1,000 inches. Okay?
Right.
If I go to 100 pixels per inch, I'm still at 1,000 by 1,000 original dimension, but now my output size is 10 by 10. If I go to that magic 240, it's 4 and change square. So this number divided into this number is where this number comes from.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. The file size doesn't change. And take a look up here. This is my original 1,000 by 1,000 in pixels. If I change this, if I click OK, now it's the 4 inch by 4 inch. You can see that with the rulers. Going back into image size, if I go to 100 by 100 and click OK, the rulers change to 10 by 10. But this has never changed as far as the pixel dimensions. it's still 1,000 by 1,000. Does that help?
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I hope that it takes a little while to sink in, but I think it's important to just open up Photoshop, create a new document, and play with that image size dialog box, and it will make sense. It will come to make sense for you.
So here's what I've learned. If I want people to not steal my picture, this is answering Brenda's question as well. If I want people to not steal my picture, PPI doesn't matter. Pixel dimensions does. So if I upload
Correct.
4,000 pixels by 6,000 pixels, that's a printable
You're gonna
image.
get ripped off.
For sure.
Well, I mean,
Right.
to be perfectly honest, though, I mean, I understand the concern. I certainly do. If
Sure.
if you upload a tiny pixel image and someone's looking at it on a Retina screen monitor, it's going to look like crap.
Yes.
And so I think that the value we place on making it so you can't get a decent print for them is not the value we create as photographers. The value we create as photographers is in the experience of the photo, not in the fact that someone can print a 4x6 if they wanted to of it.
That's right.
And so I think again, I'm not. This is not belittling Brenda's concern. I understand we all want to protect our work. I honestly and truly do. But you don't want to just do a 72 pixel image because someone can't print from it. It's going to look bad on the screen.
And the same would be true about your use of a watermark, right?
Yeah.
So you could put a watermark that completely fills the entire photo so that no one could see the photo, and that would protect it, but it would kind of ruin the experience, right? Or you can have a no watermark at all and have a beautiful photo, but hey, someone might actually do something with that.
Right. The thing is, people are inherently honest. Most people aren't out to rip anybody off, and we've learned from iTunes that people would rather buy their music than steal it. Yeah. So.
And I think honestly, the knowledge that we're doing today as photographers for how you print properly, even using online services that are like MPix or like Bayphoto that are great, that's where you get an increase in quality versus someone sending it over to CVS or Walgreens or Duane Reade and trying to print something off. And so that's where our expertise, and that's where we should, as photographers, get paid for our expertise, not just somebody, right-clicking, saving as, down-resing, printing from Facebook.
I wrote an article for Layers magazine back in the day when that existed, and it's online still. I will put a link to that, but it's called, it's all about how to protect your photos. But it discusses all of this and goes into registering your copyright. It goes into using metadata. The bottom line is you can't protect it, you can't prevent it, but you can do certain things to help yourself feel better about the reality of the world. So I'll put that link on the event page for this Hangout. And Lori also asked if there was something written down about the whole PPI resolution thing. And I have a good resource for that. So I'll put those links in the event page for posterity's sake. So hopefully reading those things will help people answer those questions.
Also, in about 2 hours, this will be viewable again, and you can just rewind and see the whole pounding this into Levi's head action one more time, and maybe it'll help you too.
I have kind of a visual demonstration too. Remember we talked about identity plates?
Yeah.
And how they look. So this might be a good time to do that.
Yeah,
so
go
do I
for
need
it.
to share my screen again?
Please.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right.
And then if we've got time, Rob, I've got one quick cool tip I like to use in the print module, because somebody asked, is it easier to print from Lightroom? Yes! It's so much easier to print from Lightroom.
Click print file. Okay, so we have our identity plates, and I'm going to move it over here. Notice it doesn't look very sharp, because if I use the one that comes with, that I've created for Lightroom, that's up here in the corner, this identity plate can only be 40 pixels high.
Right.
But we can also, and let me just, I'll make this bigger so that we can see what we're doing. You can see how fuzzy this is. Well, I can actually load up different identity plates, and they're available right here, and I've done that. So I've got a 430, an 800, and a 1280 pixel identity plate of the same thing. Watch what happens when I choose the 1280. See how that sharpens up instantly?
Yeah.
Well, if I were to use that as my identity plate up here, you'd just see a little tiny bit of the logo. So you load them up the same place. I go into identity plate setup. This is where you get them. You go ahead, if I put that 1280, look, this is the only area I get just a partial bit of the logo and the drop parts of the characters. So the 40 pixel high is the one I use for my branding on Lightroom, but I'll pick the one that I need for the print module. And the way you do it is you add them here in the identity plate dialog.
And these are PNG graphics that you created in Photoshop of your logo?
They're either PNG, TIFF. You can actually do TIFFs, PSDs. You can also do JPEGs, which I think these are.
Well, the JPEG, for transparency's sake, you want to have.
You have to use a PNG.
You want to. Ping is the safe. Ping is the safest one. PNG.
Right, because if I had a JPEG, this would be a white background over Amy, and
right.
as I do it this way, it floats that. It floats there. And you can also tell it to render behind the image or on every image. So if I had space here and you can see an edge, like if I make this smaller and just drag this down, render behind the image, you can see now it's rendering behind. Mm-hmm. So you've got some choices with the identity plates that are really kind of cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Levi, you got something to share?
I do. Let me switch to me and switch to my screen and show you Infinity screen here.
Ooh, you're going to show us Infinity. That's
Infinity.
My mind is now blown. Wow.
Yes. All right. Can you see my Lightroom?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so here's what I like to do.
That's gorgeous.
Well, thanks. It's a fun picture. Made
nice
this
identity
first
plate.
Day I got my daughter, and a nice identity. Yeah. So there's Kevin's got those printers back there behind him. Kevin's got his printers behind him, and I used to have those same two printers. And one thing I would do for my photo club was we'd make prints every week. And we would print for these competitions that had these really short deadlines, so we had to shoot on Monday and then print and turn in a picture by Wednesday. So there's hardly time to shoot and print, let alone get a matte and a frame done. So what we would do is print on a very fine matte paper. I love the fine art matte from Red River paper. And then just print an extra border around the outsides so that it looked like a matte. And since it was super matte paper, you couldn't tell that it wasn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's a fun way. And then I can also do this using the same thing. You create a fine art looking picture that you can share on online, but it looks like it's got a matte around it. So you go to page setup and choose custom sizes in the paper size. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but I think this looks different in a Windows machine.
It's a little different, yeah. Yep.
I think there's one more button you have to push to be able to do it.
On Windows, instead of having page setup and page settings, there's just one single button. And so you click that, and then to get into the more advanced functions in your printer driver, you have to click the Properties button, typically is what it's called on Windows. And then you can get into all the advanced stuff.
Right.
But a lot of times you can get by with, when you install your printer and the printer driver software, it's going to come with a whole bunch of presets of paper sizes that your printer supports, and you can choose mostly have everything you need. At the time you would want to have a custom paper, it might be much fewer than normal.
Right.
You usually need to have a custom.
Yeah. And so one of the things that's important here is that you choose any printer. Otherwise, it's going to limit you to the size that your printer is available when you're doing this faux matte.
You're talking about print to JPEG? Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah. So if you're going to do print to JPEG,
I can show you a tip later that will blow your mind as well. So you can save yourself from that step.
Oh well, excellent. I don't do the step anymore because it's already here. But so here I'm going to choose. I want to print a 16 by 20. So I'm going to set the width to 20 inches and a 16-inch high because it's a landscape orientation picture. Just like Kevin did, I set the margins to 0 and hit OK and hit OK. And now I've got a 16 by 20 paper behind my 4 by 6 ratio picture because my camera shoots a 4 by 6. That's something that we forget about too, is that your camera shoots a 2 by 3 ratio picture, and a 4 by 5 is what an 8 by 10. They're not the same shape rectangle, so you get some trouble if you don't take care of the trouble.
So how do you deal with that, Levi? Do you crop it in the develop module beforehand? Do you create virtual copies that have different aspect ratios?
Well, I don't want to crop it because I framed it in the camera. Pretty specifically. If I crop it, I lose an entire edge, and I think it's a mistake. So, otherwise, yes, I would crop it in the develop module. Although you can also, like Kevin showed us, we can put it on an 8 by 10 paper here and reposition it a little bit. But what I do for this instance is I just add a little bit of space on the bottom. I make my tops and sides pretty similar in thickness, but I weight the bottom of the mat. And this is something you should do whenever you present a picture, is have a little more space underneath. It makes it feel centered, even though it's actually a little high on the bottom. And I think part of it has to do with the shadow of the frame cast from above, and it makes the frame look thicker anyhow.
Huh. I never knew that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. And so I do this in the single image contact sheet, and it defaults to being set in the center. But like I said, I want to have a little more width underneath, so I'm going to add ½ an inch here on the bottom, and I could be specific and type 0.5. And then as I change the cell height, cell size, it will just enlarge my picture all around, maintaining that extra thickness on the bottom that I've got. Now, if I wanted to be really specific, I could set, like 2 inches on the left and right, and that will constrain the width that I can push my picture out to. And so I kind of like that. That's looking pretty good. And I could come down here and add, I could add an identity plate, or I could do a watermark. Identity plate's the better way to do it, but in fact, let's
particularly you give me credit for that great picture.
That's right. That's right. So there's my identity plate, and imagine that says something like Levi Sim photography, and just drop it right here.
One of the things you can do on those identity plates is you can do your signature,
right?
Import it as a file, and then you can actually sign your print that way digitally.
Well, I want a real Levi Sim signature because that's it's priceless. So,
well, I do make those, although they look a little bit like my 3rd grade signature.
Well, the more illegible they are, the greater the artist, right?
That's right. That must be true.
Or better the doctor.
Exactly. So.
Very
so
cool.
now I could print this with this board. Oh, but here's the real trick too. You've got to. Where's? I want to slide up. There we go. You've got to add a stroke, a stroke around the outside of the picture, or else you won't see any cut lines. Like on Kevin's big printer back there, he's got rolls of paper that are 44 inches wide, and if you're only making a 16 by 20 and you do this sort of thing, you don't know where the edge of your picture was supposed to be. So if you add a little stroke color to the outside, then now there's a stroke around the edge, and it'll print that as a cut guide.
Cool.
So the print's finished. Actually, it finished quite a while ago. If you want to see that, I'll hold it up. And then I also have Levi, let me do this one first. Do you have my screen, or do you have me? Oh, you got me live. Let me go over. You're not going to be able to hear me. I'm just going to unplug this. You're going to get some room noise now. But
so now we can talk to Kevin about him behind his back right now.
That's right.
He can still hear us.
Oh, he can still hear us.
Holy moly! That looks incredible.
Thank you. Whoever said it looks horrible.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Horrible. So anyway, that's right out of Lightroom.
Beautiful.
Very easy to do, and that's what we did at the very beginning of the Hangout. So I'll drape that back over to the.
So Rob, One of the things, can you show us how to do some like collages type of deals in Lightroom, where you can add multiple pictures to a single contact sheet?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a couple things. I have a tip I think might help Kevin. He said something earlier, and also something that I think might help Levi.
Oh boy, I'm so
Um,
excited.
Well,
But
while
you've only got
while,
3 minutes to do it, Rob.
yeah, I'll
Yeah,
do it quick.
while Rob pulls up his screen, again, if you want to register to win the Photoshop World giveaway, a free trip to Photoshop World, or a Mosaic app, you can, they were giving two prizes. Go to mosaicarchive.com/hangout. Again, this is only for folks that are attending live, but head over there, mosaicarchive.com/hangout, and I believe the link is also in the Q&A section.
Yeah, and I put it on the event page for the Hangout too. I also should say the free pass for Photoshop World is just getting you into Photoshop World. You still have to get yourself there, feed yourself, find a place to sleep, all that kind of stuff.
I recommended to another guy on Twitter today that he start mowing lawns if he wants to fly down. So
yeah,
it's summertime. There are jobs to be had, folks.
Gerard had asked about saving. Can you flip into my screen real quick?
Yeah,
This is
here you
a
go.
really fast tip. It's under the edit menu, but you can just do Command S, and
yes.
you can save the print right here.
No
So
way.
that-
That's terrific.
and I can put it right back into the collection and create. And so now it's right down here. If I want to print it again, I can just click on that. So here's a picture of Hope, and I can just go back to Vanessa. So it's pretty straightforward.
Excellent. Also over there on the left side of Kevin's screen at the very top, right under the navigator, you'll see it says template browser. And somebody had asked earlier, how do you save a template? You just click that little plus sign,
Right
and
there.
it saves the settings you've used here, and then you can add any picture you want to that template in the future.
Right.
So like for
And-
my 4x6 on 16x20, I would save that template and then go to whatever picture I want, go to the print module, and click on that, and it's all set, ready to go.
And if you create that
To make an
template,
8x10,
after
you click there, drag, done.
if you create that template after you've completely finished your layout, selected all your settings in the print job panel, then all of those things get saved in that template as well. The paper
Right.
size, the profile, all that stuff.
So you might want to name the user templates with that information so you know what you're doing if you
Yeah.
use different papers.
Totally.
So who had the last tip?
All right,
right,
let me
Rob's
show real
on.
quick. I'm going to try and go through a couple things. One, Kevin mentioned that it could be hard to center a print in Lightroom. And if you're going to do just a single image print, like I have showing here, you can use this single image contact sheet layout style, and it makes your life a lot easier for centering, because then all you have to do is go to the layout panel, and as long as all your margins are set to an equal value, then
Brilliant.
the print will be centered on the paper. All right.
Brilliant.
So let me just, so here it's not centered, but as soon as I even out all my margins to the same value, then the print itself will inside the center of the print. All right. And that'll just
Excellent.
make that part a lot easier. Levi was showing that to get a custom size for printing a JPEG, to use the page setup and create a custom page layout that way, you can skip that step if you just come into the print job panel,
Oh,
set the
yeah.
print to option to JPEG, and then down here go to custom file dimensions, and then you can just type in whatever the dimensions you want the paper to be, the final image, the final print size to be, and Lightroom will set the canvas to be whatever that size is. And then back up here in layout, as long as my margins are all zeroed out, that photo is going to be centered dead smack in the middle of that print.
Does that stick if you go back away from print to file?
Does what
Does
stick?
that paper size stick?
No, but you can save that as a template.
And then it doesn't have to. Well, no. So say I wanted to use this as a shortcut to make a 17x22.
Yeah.
So if you switch JPEG file back to printer, will it still be this size? No. Okay.
No, because that's once you go to printer, then now your printer driver takes over and sets it. So then I would have to change that in my page setup and choose the paper size. So
Okay.
remember, when you go into JPEG, your printer doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't
Right.
matter what printer you have or if you have no printer at all. Once you set it to JPEG file, now you're just saving out a JPEG. Go to custom file dimensions. You can just hover your little cursor over there and change all the way up to
Right.
100. 100 is the
Very cool.
maximum. 4 is the minimum.
Very cool.
All
And
right.
I'm drafting an email right now to send to Brian O'Neill Hughes because in our podcast with him the other day, he invited us to send any recommendations for Lightroom to him.
Right.
And my recommendation is a little checkbox that says add to catalog when you print a JPEG file. Because
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, if you print a JPEG file, it just saves to wherever you save it to, and then you have to go resynchronize your catalog to get it back in.
That's true. And so, if I was doing a single, for printing a JPEG, if you're just printing out a bunch of 8x10s, single images, I think it's a lot easier to crop to 8x10 aspect ratio in Lightroom and then just export files that are 8x10 and upload those instead of coming into the print module. There's no benefit. Saving the JPEG from the print module is helpful if you're doing a layout that has in itself some purpose. So if I was doing a contact sheet like Gerard had said, under Lightroom templates, there's this whole mess of templates that comes with Lightroom. I broke those out into different categories based on the layout style that they call up. So like the one 5x7, I just created my own set of templates. It's just the same ones that are up here. I just broke them out into a way that makes more sense so I know what layout style I'm using.
Great idea.
So the layout style single image contact sheet is when you want to create a document that essentially uses a grid where all the cells are the same size. All right? And you can have as many photos as you want in there. So under this Use menu on the toolbar, it's also up under the Print menu here.
If you don't see it, press the T key.
Yeah, you can go to Content. It's Use down here. It's Content under the Print menu. But if I set this to all film strip photos, then it automatically populates my contact sheet with all the photos that are in my collection or folder or whatever I'm viewing in the film strip here.
Cool.
Right. If I wanted to do a picture package is like your school portraits where you get an 8x10, some wallets, and that kind of thing. So picture package will print a single image in a variety of different sizes. So when you want to have one photo printed at different sizes, then you go to picture package. And that will auto-populate as well based on whatever template you use. And again, templates are just starting places. You're not limited to this. I'm just clicking on these as starting points. And then custom package is when you want to print multiple different photos at multiple different sizes. You could print the same photo as well, but typically I think of it as if I wanted to print different photos in this layout and have this layout save it as a JPEG, then I could do that. And with custom package, which is what Kevin was using earlier, then you can drag and drop your photos to the cells that are on the page and create a layout that way. And then save it out as a JPEG. And I guess I probably should pick a photo that would look good in that orientation. And so you can do a custom package where they're actually overlaid each other like this, or you could do it where they're not overlaid and just be side by side. And so you can do a lot of different outputs from the print module. I'm probably out of time here, but
yeah, I mean, Rob, I guess I just wanted to emphasize something you said earlier on, and that is that if you are not creating something sort of more unique with a border, or you just want to print out a 5x7, and you're sending it to somebody like an MPix or a Bay Photo, the print module is probably not your place.
Right. So here, this is what I would do. So say I wanted to have all these photos here in this, and I wanted to send these all to MPix and have them printed at 5x7, right? I would start by just selecting them all in grid view. I go over to Quick Develop, and I would expand this down to crop ratio, and I would just choose a 5x7 crop ratio. This isn't going to set the size here. This is just going to set the aspect ratio to 5x7. And now they're all just got set to a 5x7 aspect ratio, regardless of what their orientation is, landscape or portrait. And now if I press the R key to go to the crop tool, I could see they're all 5:7. And if I just go through them, they're already set to a 5:7 aspect ratio. And now I can just adjust for composition. And if I hold the command key down or control key, I can use my arrow keys and just go through each one and just check the composition is good enough. All right. Then I'd go back to grid view once I'm happy with my crops and they're all set to the right aspect ratio. Then I just select them all, Command or Control A, click Export, and I'll put them in a folder, whatever. That's not important. The important part is here: file size, file settings, JPEG, sRGB. I get my quality probably up in the 85 range or so. So it's high quality, but not so high on the file size. And then I go to resize to fit, go to dimensions. I'm going to set this to inches. Uh-oh, somebody is getting arrested. I'm going to set this to 5:7.
Sorry, that's in our office here. No one in our office is getting
Just got
arrested.
busted. I'm going to set my resolution. All right, this is Levi. This is where it's important, okay? So say I talked to my print supplier, and they said, send me an sRGB JPEG that is 300 ppi. Now I'm going to enter 300. Because I have resize to fit checked, Lightroom will resize the photos, either downsizing them or making them larger. But these are all, it's all going to get smaller here for these. It will resize these down to 5:7 inches at 300 ppi, which will affect the pixel dimensions and save them all out. All right.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
set this
important
to show in Finder. I'll put this in a folder on my desktop.
While Rob's doing that, it's important to note that if your file size is smaller than 5:7, Lightroom will extrapolate it up, interpolate it up, and you may lose quality.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a checkbox. If you think you're worried about enlarging and you don't want that to happen, you can check Don't Enlarge, and Lightroom will not resample them larger. It would only resample them smaller. But I feel confident here that these native pixels can handle 5:7. All right, and then I just
you didn't shoot those with your iPhone?
Even if you did.
I probably could do a 5:7 iPhone photo these days. But
you could probably do a 16:20 iPhone photo these days.
at 300 ppi. So now Lightroom is saving those out, and I would just upload that folder to my print service, and I would skip the print module altogether.
That's cool.
Right?
So there you have it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think
Rob.
we're ready to pick a winner for the contest.
All right. Pick a winner.
Winner chicken dinner.
I think Steve is on the way. It looks like Matt G. Congratulations, you have won the Photoshop World giveaway.
All right, Matt.
Yay.
We'll see you there.
We'll see you.
Matt, I will make you a deal. If you come and find me at Photoshop World, I will also buy you a beer.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. But look forward to meeting you there. And is it Amy A?
Amy Adams? All right, Amy.
Amy Adams, you have won the free Mosaic app. Congratulations.
Oh, terrific.
Congratulations, Amy.
Isn't Amy Adams a famous actress?
I know. I'm so happy.
That's so cool. She's watching our Hangout.
She's a famous photographer anyway.
Absolutely. So, Amy, we will be emailing you the promo code so you can redeem it on the Apple Store. So, congratulations.
All right,
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
just getting through our questions. I think we touched on all the questions too. So.
Yes.
I hope so. And we'll be putting out more links to come on some of the stuff, and perhaps in the future we'll do another print module one where we'll focus less on PPI, DPI, and on the.
Oh, come on.
I know it's totally the baseline of everything else. If you don't.
Yeah, and that's where I get most of the questions around that stuff. But yeah, there's really a lot we could still go on about the print module.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm thinking our next book, which, by the way, our book, if you didn't hear, should be out any time now. And head over to photofocus.com today, and there are 2 books for free on there from Rich Harrington. Excellent books, as well as a super discount sale on Scott Bourne's 72 essays on photography, which, if you haven't read, is a life-changing book.
It's an amazing, amazing book.
Yeah,
and
you can get the $50 discount off Photoshop World there as well if you didn't win.
That's right.
Everyone else can get
That's
that.
right.
So
And
everybody that watches this Hangout is a winner.
That's right.
I like to think so.
And we hope we can see you back here on July 30th for the
Yes.
next Hangout on
That's right.
on using your photography in a mobile world, which is awesome.
That's right. With a
In the
super
meantime, where do we
surprise
find you,
special guest.
Gerard?
What's that? You can find me at Mosaic Archive on Twitter, or I'm usually the one that's tweeting from that, or at Gerard Murphy 3 on Twitter as well. So I look forward to hanging out. Plus, I'm also plus Gerard Murphy, I think. So if you want to hang out with me on Google Plus, shoot me over something.
All right. Thanks, Gerard. And Kevin, where do we find you between now and Photoshop World?
Well, on Twitter, it's at AimsPhoto, and Kevin at AimsPhoto.com. And, of course, you can always get a hold of me on my website, KevinAimsPhotography.com.
Thanks, Kevin. We're really glad
Thank
you
you. I
joined
had
us
a lot
today.
of fun this time, Levi.
And
Hope
if
I
you
can
show
come
up,
back
if you show
sometime.
up to his studio, he's going to make you put on a red dress.
Only if you're a girl.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good to know.
Sorry.
Fair.
That's terrific. And Rob, what's coming up for you?
Oh, well, you can come take a trip with me out west. Come visit the digitalphotoworkshops.com. We'll be going out to Yosemite. We'll be going out to Tetons. We'll be going out to Moab. We've got some great guest instructors coming along. So we have a good time. A lot of the photos that I had up there today were from those past trips. And, of course, you can find me on Photo Focus and at Photoshop World.
Excellent.
What about you, Levi?
Thanks,
Where can we
Rob.
find you?
Well, if you're in the Midwest tomorrow, I will be in Chicago teaching at the outofchicago.com conference. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a bunch of photo walks. I'm teaching Lightroom. There are classes for all kinds of stuff, and it's cheap. I think it's $150.
That's
And we've
great.
got a bunch of giveaways there as well. It is really a great deal.
I
And
love
so,
Chicago. Great.
yeah,
Great.
Chicago is the best place for photo walking. So I'm excited. I hope I see you there. And otherwise, I am going to be at Photoshop World, and you'll find me on photofocus.com as well.
Cool. Well, thank you, Kevin, for spending an hour plus with us, and thank you,
Oh,
guys.
always, Rob. It's so much fun. And I'll see you at Photoshop World and on Photo Focus.
Excellent.
And if anybody's going to Cincinnati, I'll be there this weekend at Dodd Camera
Oh, excellent.
for Sigma lenses.
Oh, yeah.
Brand new 50mm f1.4.
Oh, no. You've got it
it's
on hand?
Insanely good.
Yeah.
You're a Sigma Pro, right?
I am. I'm sponsored by Sigma.
Yeah.
All of the images you've seen today, including that great big print, those were all shot with Sigma lenses.
Yeah, I'd like
Oh,
to
yeah.
try that new Sigma lens too. Very
Well,
cool.
that 18 to 35 f1.8 through the entire range, that is the finest lens I have ever handled, let alone shot. I mean, it just feels good in your hands. It is phenomenal.
He just likes to fondle the lens. All right.
It's got this little cove around the back edge. You know, most of these lenses have this cheap plasticky thing. This thing is like finely machined aluminum all the way around the back. It's just
Beautiful.
Well, maybe we can do a hangout and talk about lenses sometime.
Yeah, sure.
we haven't done that. That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be
It
good.
doesn't fit Lightroom so much, but
Well,
you know,
there's lens profiles in there.
Yeah, we can talk about lens
work it in.
profiles. We can talk about
right.
filtering.
let's
by
do
that.
that. Let's do that because that's a lot of fun. They've done some things in Lightroom with software that really helps the photographer, and we could get into a whole hour of that right now, which would not be good.
All right. Well, maybe we should let everyone go, and we'll see everyone next month.
We'll see you later.
Everybody.
And for those of you, look me up at Photoshop World.
All right.